Welcome back to Tethered and Whole. We're almost done with this podcast. You know, my grandfather was a newly minted physician when World War II broke out, and he was sent overseas to work in a MASH hospital in what was then Burma and is now Myanmar. There, he cared for soldiers and pilots flying dangerous missions over the Himalayas into China, and even survived a bombing of the very hospital where he was stationed. When he returned home, he spent years treating soldiers for what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, long before it had a name. Back then, they were still using the term shell shock, which was coined during World War I. My grandfather had a belief that has stayed with me ever since, and that is that an important part of healing is not just what we go through, but how we tell the story of what we went through. He noticed that veterans who saw themselves as having grown from their experiences and as having exerted some level of control or meaning over these moments tended to function better in their daily lives, and their narrative of their traumatic moments softened with each retelling of their stories from the past. Today, research in narrative psychology supports that idea, showing that we make sense of our lives through the stories that we tell ourselves. And so, as educators standing at the edge of another school year, with classrooms slowing down and the noise finally quieting, this idea matters more than we might realize. What you are carrying right now is not just a collection of memories. It's a story waiting to be shaped. This story has a beginning, middle, and an end. It is filled with characters, conflicts, and moments that mattered probably more than you may have realized at the time. And so the question now becomes, what story are you going to tell about this year? You could tell the story of exhaustion, of everything that did not go right, of the student who never quite connected, or the lessons that fell completely flat. Or you could tell the story of growth, of persistence, and of these moments where something shifted, even slightly. Those moments matter. They count, and they build something when they're added together, one on top of the other. Narrative psychology invites us to slow down and examine those moments more closely. It asks us to identify turning points, breakthroughs, and struggles that forced us to adapt. It encourages us to notice not just what happened, but how it felt. Those emotions like pride, frustration, connection, and even doubt, it's data. They are clues pointing us toward who we are becoming as educators. And when we take the time to reflect in this way, we do more than remember the year. We refine it. We edit it. We choose what it means. And that choice, it shapes what comes next. So friends, here's the part I really want you to hold on to. The story you tell yourself about this year will quietly become the foundation for the year ahead. Your brain will look for evidence to support whatever narrative you have written. If your story is, I am burned out and nothing works, you will keep finding proof of that. But if your story is more like, I grew, I adapted, and I made a difference in ways I'm still discovering, well, then your mind will begin building on that instead. This is where the future comes in. This process is not just about looking back. It's also about looking forward and beginning to write the next chapter before it even starts. So imagine yourself stepping into the classroom next year with intention. Back to our first chapter. Picture the kind of environment you want to create, the connections you want to build, and the energy you want to bring. Consider the stories you will tell your students, because storytelling, it's not just reflective, it's relational. It's how we build trust, and it's how we build community. And it's how we help students see themselves as capable of growth, especially when we share stories of resilience and setbacks that led to something even better. So, as this year winds down and you step into summer, I want to leave you with 3 simple but powerful practices. First, create a positive narrative for this past year. It does not need to be perfect, but it should be true and honor growth and effort. And if the narrative is negative, it will follow you into your quiet moments and shape how you feel long after the year is over. Second, put an early positive spin on the upcoming school year. Give yourself a story of hope and possibility to step into rather than one of dread. And number 3, start or continue a self-care practice now while things are lighter, so that when the demands return, that practice is already part of you, something familiar and grounding, rather than something you are trying to build in the middle of stress. So when you shape your story with intention, you're not just reflecting. You are anchoring yourself. You are creating a narrative that keeps you steady, connected, and moving forward. In doing so, you give yourself the best chance to return next year, not just rested, but truly tethered and truly whole. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week.